The great arena of Station Omega floated in the darkness of space like a silver moon. Ships from 100 different worlds circled around it. Inside, thousands of aliens filled the seats. They had come to watch the Galactic Unity Games, the biggest competition in the known universe. Taiho stood alone in the human section. It was a small area with only 20 seats. Most of them were empty. Earth had sent only one fighter this year, and nobody expected him to survive the first round. He was not tall. He was not big. He wore simple gray clothes while other fighters wore shining armor and carried weapons that could cut through steel. A group of lizard-like Kolvani fighters pointed at him and laughed. Their scales were thick like stone, and their teeth were sharp like knives. "Look at the human," one of them said. "So small, so soft, I could break him with one hand." Taiho did not respond. He simply watched the arena floor where two fighters were battling. His face showed nothing. His eyes were calm like still water. The games had been going on for 3 days now. Taiho had won his matches, but nobody paid attention. His victories were quiet. His opponents would swing at him, miss, and somehow end up on the ground. The judges called his wins boring. The crowd called him lucky, but he was still standing. That was more than anyone expected from a human. On the highest balcony of the arena, the royal families of the great empires watched the games. Prince Kale of the Villani Empire sat on a golden throne. His skin was pale purple, and his eyes were like yellow stars. He was tall and beautiful by Villani standards, and he knew it. Servants stood around him, ready to obey his every word. "The human is still alive," said General Bora, who stood behind him. She was older than the prince, with silver hair and scars on her face from many battles. He moved strangely. "I cannot predict his steps," Prince Kale laughed. "He is nothing. Humans are the weakest species in the galaxy. They have no claws, no scales, no venom. They are soft little creatures from a small blue planet. The fact that he has survived is an insult to the real warriors." General Bora said nothing, but her eyes stayed on the human below. The final day of the preliminary rounds arrived. Taiho won his last match against a tall, insect-like creature. The creature had 4 arms and moved fast, but Taiho moved faster. He did not punch or kick. He simply stepped aside, again and again, until his opponent fell from exhaustion. The crowd booed. They wanted blood. They wanted violence. This human gave them nothing, but the rules were clear. Winners moved forward, and Taiho was a winner. That evening, there was a great ceremony. The fighters who passed the preliminary rounds would receive prizes from the allied species. It was an old tradition meant to build friendship between worlds. Taiho stood in line with the other winners. One by one, they received their gifts. The Kolvani champion received a warship. A fighter from the Mori system received rare crystals worth more than a planet. Each gift was greater than the last. Then it was Taiho's turns. Prince Kale stood up from his throne with a wide smile. The crowd grew quiet. Everyone knew the prince loved to make speeches. "Humans," he said, his voice echoing through the arena. "They are new to our galaxy. They are weak. They are small. But we are generous, are we not?" The crowd laughed. "So I have chosen a special gift for their champion." He waved his hand, and the doors at the side of the arena opened. A female Villani walked out. She was different from the others of her kind. While most Villani were around 7 feet tall, she was over 9 feet. Her limbs were long and thin. Her pale blue skin seemed almost gray. By Villani standards, she was considered ugly, wrong, a mistake of nature. Her name was Yuna. She walked with her head down, her shoulders bent as if she was trying to make herself smaller. The crowd laughed even louder now. Some pointed at her. Some made cruel jokes. "I give you Yuna," Prince Kale announced. "The tallest and ugliest daughter of our empire. A perfect match for a human, do you not think?" The laughter was deafening. Why Yuana stopped in front of Taiho. She could not look at him. Her hands were shaking. She had been prepared for this moment, but the shame was still too heavy. She was being used as an insult. A joke. A way to humiliate both her and this small human. She waited for his disgust. She waited for his anger. She waited for him to refuse her in front of everyone. But none of that happened. Taiho stepped forward. He looked up at her. He had to, because she was so much taller than him. And then he bowed. It was a deep bow, full of respect, the kind of bow humans gave to honored guests. "Thank you," he said. His voice was soft but clear. "I am Taiho. It is nice to meet you." The laughter in the arena slowly faded. People looked at each other in confusion. This was not the reaction they expected. Yuna finally raised her head. She looked down at the human with wide eyes. He was so small compared to her. His head barely reached her chest, but his eyes were warm. There was no disgust in them, no mockery, only kindness. You are not angry?" she whispered. Taeho shook his head. "Why would I be angry? I have been given a companion. That is a gift, not an insult." Up on the balcony, Prince Kale's smile disappeared. This was not how things were supposed to go. Was not how things were supposed to go. The human should be embarrassed. He should be furious. Instead, he was treating that ugly giant like she was precious. General. Bora watched the scene with great interest. A small smile appeared on her scarred face. "Interesting," she murmured. Down in the arena, Taiho offered his hand to Yuna. She stared at it for a long moment. No one had ever offered her their hand before. No one had ever looked at her without disgust or pity. Slowly, carefully, she took it. His hand was so small in hers. So warm. "Come," Taiho said gently. "Let us leave this place." They walked out of the arena together. The tall alien girl and the small human man. Behind them, the crowd was silent. No one was laughing anymore. The quarters given to Taiho were small. They were meant for humans after all, and no one expected humans to need much space. There was a narrow bed, a tiny kitchen, and a window that looked out into the stars. Yuna stood in the middle of the room, her head almost touching the ceiling. She had to bend down just to fit through the door. Everything here was too small for her. The chairs, the table, even the bed. She felt like a giant trapped in a box. "I am sorry," she said quietly. "I do not fit here." Taiho was in the kitchen area, looking through the supplies that had been given to him. He turned to look at her and smiled. "Then we will make it fit," he said simply. Over the next hour, Taiho moved things around. He pushed the small bed against the wall and brought in cushions from storage. He created a large sleeping area on the floor using blankets and soft materials. He moved the table to the side so Yuna had room to walk without bumping into things. Yuna watched him work. No one had ever done anything like this for her before. In her family's palace, she was given a room in the far corner, away from everyone else. Her parents rarely spoke to her. Her siblings pretended she did not exist. She was ashamed to the Villani royal bloodline. Too tall, too strange, too ugly. "You do not have to do this," she said. "I can sleep in the hallway. I do not want to trouble you." Taiho stopped and looked at her. His eyes were serious now. "You are not trouble," he said. "You are my companion. We share this space. That means we share it equally." That night, Yuna slept better than she had in years. The cushions were soft, and for the first time, she did not feel like she was in the way. When she woke up, the smell of food filled the small room. Taeho was cooking. He had found ingredients in the station's market the day before. Now he was making something called rice with vegetables. It was a simple earth dish, he explained, but it was warm and filling. "I do not know if Villani can eat human food," he admitted. but I made it mild. Try a little and see. Yuna took a small bite. The taste was strange, but not bad. It was soft and gentle, like the person who made it. It is good, she said. Surprised. Taeho smiled. I am glad. They ate together in comfortable silence. Through the window, ships passed by like distant fireflies. The station was busy with activity. The main tournament would begin in 2 days, and fighters from all species were preparing. Tell me about your people, Taeho said after a while. I know very little about the Vellani. Yuna hesitated. No one had asked her about her people before. They usually told her how wrong she was, how she failed to meet Vellani standards. They never asked her to share. We value beauty, she began slowly, and perfection. Our bodies must be a certain height, a certain shape. Our skin must be the right shade of purple. Our movements must be graceful and exact. And you are different, Taeho said. It was not a question. Yuna nodded. I am too tall. My limbs are too long. My skin is too pale. I was born wrong. My family has tried to hide me for most of my life. Taeho was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that surprised her. On Earth, tall people are often admired. We have sports where being tall is a great advantage. And in many cultures, being different is seen as being special. Yuna stared at him. Special? Yes, we have a saying, the nail that sticks out gets noticed. Sometimes that is hard. But sometimes it means you are the one people remember. Yuna did not know how to respond. She had spent her whole life being told she was a mistake. This small human was telling her she might be special instead. The days passed and they settled into a routine. Taeho trained in the mornings, though his training was strange. He did not lift heavy weights or practice with weapons. Instead, he sat quietly and breathed. He moved slowly through a series of gentle movements. It looked like a dance, almost. What are you doing? Yuna asked one morning. Clearing my mind, Taeho said. A calm mind sees more than an angry one. Other fighters walked past their quarters and laughed at them. The Kovani pointed and made jokes about the tall, ugly alien and her tiny human pet. A group of fighters from the Mori system threw food at their door. The insults never stopped. Taeho cleaned up the mess without a word. He never got angry. He never shouted back, "Why do you not fight them?" Yuna asked, frustrated. They mock you every day. They mock themselves, Taeho replied calmly. A person who needs to hurt others is a person who is hurting inside. I feel sorry for them. Yuna did not understand. In Vellani society, insults had to be answered with violence. Honor demanded it. But Taeho seemed to follow different rules. General Bora came to visit them one evening. She was not like the other Vellani. She did not look at Yuna with disgust. Instead, she studied Taeho with curious eyes. You are an interesting human, she said. Your fighting style is unusual. I watched your matches in the preliminary rounds. You never attack. You only defend. Attacking creates openings, Taeho said. Defending closes them. General Bora smiled slightly. That is a warrior's wisdom. But you speak like a man who has never seen war. Taeho's eyes flickered for just a moment. Something dark passed through them, something old and sad. But it was gone before anyone could be sure they saw it. I have seen enough, he said quietly. After the general left, Yuna sat next to Taeho by the window. The stars outside were bright and endless. She is testing you, Yuna said. General Bora is not a fool. She sees something in you that others do not. Perhaps, Taeho said. What are you hiding, Taeho? He did not answer. Instead, he looked out at the stars, and his eyes became distant, as if he was seeing something far away. Something from a long time ago? Yuna did not push him. She was learning that Taiho was like the ocean calm on the surface, but deep beyond measure. Whatever secrets he held, he would share them when he was ready. For now, she was just grateful to have found someone who treated her like a person instead of a monster. And maybe she thought that was enough. The day before the main tournament, Prince Kale announced a special event. He called it a friendly sparring exhibition. Fighters could volunteer to test their skills against each other. There would be no points, no prizes, just a chance to show off before the real battles began. Everyone knew the truth. This was not friendly. This was entertainment. The strong would crush the weak, and the crowd would cheer. Taiho did not volunteer. He planned to stay in his quarters with Yuna and rest before the tournament. But fate had other plans. A messenger arrived at his door with an official notice. Taiho had been selected for a special match. Prince Kale himself had arranged it. "You will face Garak of the Corvani," the messenger said. "The match is in 1 hour. Attendance is mandatory." The door closed before Taiho could respond. Yuna's face went pale. "Garak is a killer. He has ended the lives of 12 opponents in exhibition matches alone. They call him the Bone Crusher. The Corvani send him when they want someone dead." Taiho was quiet for a moment. Then he stood up and stretched his arms. "I suppose I should get ready then," he said calmly. "You cannot be serious." Yuna grabbed his arm. Her long fingers wrapped around it completely. "This is a trap. Prince Kale wants you dead. He is still angry about what happened at the ceremony. You embarrassed him by accepting me with respect. I know. Then refuse. Tell him you are sick. Tell him anything." Taiho gently removed her hand from his arm. He looked up at her, and his eyes were soft but firm. "If I refuse, they will say humans are cowards. They will mock Earth for 1,000 years. And they will find another way to hurt us. Maybe they will hurt you instead." He shook his head. "No, I will face him." The arena was packed. Word had spread fast that the tiny human would fight Garak the Bone Crusher. Everyone wanted to see the slaughter. Bets were made. Most people bet that Taiho would die in less than 1 minute. Prince Kale sat in his royal box with a satisfied smile. Next to him, General Bora watched with crossed arms. Her face showed nothing, but her eyes were sharp. "This is cruel," she said quietly. "Even for you." "It is justice," Prince Kale replied. "That human made me look foolish. Now he will pay." Yuna found a seat in the front row. Her heart was pounding so hard, she could hear it in her ears. She wanted to run into the arena and carry Taiho away. But she knew that would only make things worse. The gates opened, and Garak walked out. He was massive, over 8 feet tall, with scales as thick as armor. His arms were like tree trunks, and his claws could tear through metal. He roared at the crowd, and they cheered. Then Taiho walked out. He looked so small, so fragile. He wore the same simple gray clothes he always wore. No armor. No weapons. Nothing. The crowd laughed. Some threw things at him. He did not react. "Begin." The announcer shouted. Gorak charged. He was fast for his size, impossibly fast. His fist swung toward Taiho's head with enough force to destroy a wall. But Taiho was not there. He had moved. Just a small step to the side. Gorak's fist hit only air. The Corvani spun around and attacked again. A kick that could break bones. A claw swipe that could open flesh. A headbutt that could crack skulls. None of them landed. Taiho moved like smoke, like a leaf in the wind. He never ran. He never jumped. He simply shifted his weight, turned his body, and let the attacks pass by him. Each movement was small, barely visible. But each one was perfect. The crowd grew quiet. This was not what they expected. Garak was getting angry. He roared and attacked faster, harder. His movements became wild and desperate. Sweat poured down his scales. His breathing became heavy. Taeho just kept moving. He did not attack. He did not speak. He did not even look tired. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Then 15. Gorek fell to his knees. He was exhausted. His body could not keep up with his rage. He tried to stand, but his legs gave out. He collapsed on the arena floor, gasping for air. Taeho walked over to him. For a moment, everyone thought he would deliver the final blow. That was what warriors did. That was the way of the galaxy. Instead, Taeho knelt down and offered his hand. "You fought well," he said gently. "Rest now." Gorek stared at him with confused eyes. No one had ever shown him mercy before. In his world, the weak died and the strong killed. That was the only truth he knew. But this human was different. Slowly, with shaking arms, Gorek took Taeho's hand. Taeho helped him sit up. He called for medical staff to come and assist. The arena was silent. No one knew what to say. Prince Kale's smile was gone. His hands gripped the arms of his throne so tightly that they cracked. This was not supposed to happen. The human was supposed to die. Instead, he had made a fool of the Corvani champion and shown mercy to an enemy. General Bora leaned forward in her seat. Her eyes were wide with something that might have been respect. "What is he?" she whispered. That night, Yuna was waiting when Taeho returned to their quarters. She grabbed him the moment he walked through the door and lifted him off the ground in a tight hug. Her long arms wrapped around him completely. "You are alive," she said, her voice breaking. "You are alive." Taeho laughed softly. "You can put me down now. I need to breathe." She set him down quickly, embarrassed. "I am sorry. I was so scared." They sat by the window together, looking at the stars. The station was buzzing with talk about what had happened. Everyone was asking the same question. How did that small human survive? "Taeho," Yuna said finally, "what you did in that arena, I have never seen anything like it. You moved like you knew where every attack would be before it happened." Taeho was quiet. "Please," she continued, "tell me the truth. What are you?" He looked at her for a long moment. The silence stretched between them. Outside, the stars turned slowly. Finally, Taeho spoke. His voice was soft and tired. "I am just someone who is tired of fighting," he said. "I came to these games hoping to prove that humans deserve a place in the galaxy. I did not want to hurt anyone. I still do not. But you know how to fight. You know how to kill." Taeho closed his eyes. When he opened them again, there was something ancient in them. Something heavy. "Yes," he admitted. "I know how to kill. Better than most. But knowing how to kill and wanting to kill are different things. I made a choice a long time ago. I chose to protect instead of destroy." Yuna reached out and took his hand. His small human hand felt so fragile in her long fingers. But she knew now that fragile was not the same as weak. "Whatever you are," she said softly, "I am glad you are here." Taeho squeezed her hand and smiled. "So am I." On Earth, in a small town near the mountains, an old man named Juan sat in front of a screen. The news feeds from Station Omega were playing. He watched the recording of Taeho's match against Gorak for the third time. His hands were shaking. "So you are still alive," Juan whispered. "After all these years." Juan was 70 years old now, but 40 years ago, he had been a young soldier. He had served under a commander who was barely 20 at the time, a man so skilled in combat that enemies called him a ghost. A man so deadly that entire armies would retreat just by hearing his name. They had called him the Silence. Juan remembered the last time he saw his old commander. It was after the Battle of Red Valley, where 300 humans had faced 10,000 enemy soldiers. They should have all died. But the silence had moved through the battlefield like death itself. When the sun rose, only one side was left standing, and then the silence had walked away. He had put down his weapons, removed his uniform, and disappeared into the civilian world. "I am done," he had said. "I cannot carry any more ghosts." One never saw him again. Until now. He picked up his communication device and made a call. There were people who needed to know that the silence had returned. At Station Omega, General Bora could not sleep. The image of Taiho moving through Gorak's attacks played in her mind over and over. She had been a soldier for 60 years. She had seen the best fighters in the galaxy. But she had never seen anything like what that human did. There was no wasted movement. No hesitation. Every step was calculated. Every dodge was perfect. It was like he could see the future. She went to her private office and accessed the classified military database. It took her hours of searching, but finally, she found what she was looking for. Earth military records. Classified section. Level 10 clearance required. She entered her highest security codes. A file appeared on her screen. At the top was a name, Taiho Kim. Codename, The Silence. General Bora began to read. The file was long. It started with his birth in a small Earth city. His childhood was normal. But when he was 18, war came to his planet. Alien species had discovered Earth and wanted its resources. The young planet had to fight for survival. Taiho joined the military. Within 1 year, he became the most effective soldier Earth had ever seen. He was not just good at fighting. He was something beyond human. He could predict enemy movements before they happened. He could move through defenses like they did not exist. He could defeat 100 enemies without making a sound. The file contained battle reports. General Bora read them with growing shock. The defense of Sector 7. Enemy forces numbered 5,000. Taiho entered their base alone. When the sun rose, no enemies remained standing. The liberation of the moon colonies. Taiho disabled an entire invasion fleet by himself. He moved from ship to ship in the darkness of space, silent as a shadow. The Peace of Orion. 2 hostile alien empires were about to destroy each other and take Earth with them. Taiho walked into their war zone alone. 3 days later, both empires signed a peace treaty. No one knew exactly what he did, but both sides were terrified of him. By the age of 25, Taiho had personally ended 3 interplanetary conflicts. Enemies who heard his codename would surrender rather than fight. Entire species refused to enter human space because they were afraid of attracting his attention. And then, at the height of his power, he disappeared. The file said he had requested an honorable discharge. Earth's leaders begged him to stay. They offered him everything: money, power, command of the entire military. He refused. "I have seen too much death," he had written in his resignation letter. "I need to find peace." He vanished into civilian life and was never heard from again, until he appeared at the Galactic Unity Games as a simple contestant. General Bora sat back in her chair. Her hands were trembling. This man was not just a fighter. He was a legend, a weapon, the most dangerous human who had ever lived, and Prince Kale had tried to kill him with a simple Kovani thug. She grabbed the file and rushed to the Emperor's chambers. The Villani Emperor was old and wise. He had ruled for 300 years and had seen empires rise and fall. When General Bora showed him the file, his face became pale. "This cannot be," he said. "This single human did all of this?" "The records are verified, Your Majesty. Every report comes from multiple sources. There are even recordings of some of his battles." "Show me." General Bora played one of the recordings. It showed the Battle of Red Valley from an observation drone. On the screen, A single figure moved through an army of 10,000. He was so fast that he looked like a blur. Bodies fell around him like leaves in a storm. He did not stop, did not slow down, did not hesitate. In 15 minutes, the battle was over. The emperor's hands gripped his throne. And my son tried to have this man killed in a sparring match? Yes, your majesty. The emperor closed his eyes. We are lucky that the silence has chosen peace. If he wanted revenge, he did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Across the station, Prince Kale was in his private chambers, drinking expensive wine and complaining to his servants about the embarrassment at the arena. That human cheated somehow, he said bitterly. There must be some trick, some device. No human could move like that naturally. One of his servants cleared his throat nervously. Your Highness, there is a message from the Emperor. He wishes to speak with you. Tell him I am busy. He says it is about the human. He says you must see something. Prince Kale rolled his eyes and followed the servant to his father's chambers. When he arrived, the Emperor and General Bora were waiting. Father, what is this about? I have no time for. The Emperor raised his hand and Kale went silent. He had never seen his father look so serious. Watch, the Emperor said. General Bora played the recording from Red Valley. Prince Kale watched. At first, he looked bored, then confused. Then, as the recording continued, his face slowly lost all color. By the end, his wine glass had slipped from his fingers and shattered on the floor. That is the human I insulted? His voice was barely a whisper. That is the man I tried to kill? Yes, the Emperor said. And by giving him that girl as an insult, you have given him a reason to hate our entire empire. Prince Kale fell into a chair. His body was shaking. What do we do? Father, what do we do? The Emperor looked out his window at the stars. His ancient eyes were troubled. For now, we pray that the silence truly wants peace. Because if he does not, he turned to look at his son. Then there is no force in this galaxy that can stop him. 2 days had passed since the sparring exhibition. The main tournament had begun, but no one cared about the matches anymore. Everyone was talking about the small human who had made the Corvani champion look like a child. Rumors spread through the station like fire. Some said Taiho was a robot in disguise. Others said he had magical powers. A few people found old recordings from Earth's wars and shared them across the network. Soon, everyone knew about the silenced dot in their small quarters. Taiho and Yuna tried to ignore the chaos outside. They ate breakfast together. They talked about small things, favorite foods, childhood memories, the beauty of different planets. For a few hours, they pretended they were just two normal people in a normal place. But peace never lasts forever. The knock on their door was loud and aggressive. Taiho opened it to find a group of Villani guards standing in the hallway. Taiho of Earth, the lead guard said. You are summoned to the Grand Arena. Prince Kale has issued a formal challenge. Yuna stood up quickly. What kind of challenge? The guard looked at her with cold eyes. A blood duel. To the death. The words hung in the air like poison. Yuna felt her legs go weak. A blood duel was the most serious form of combat in Villani culture. There were no rules except only one person would walk away alive. On what grounds? Taiho asked calmly. The prince claims that you have insulted the honor of the Villani Empire. He demands satisfaction. Taiho almost smiled. The irony was not lost on him. The prince who had publicly humiliated both him and Yuna was now claiming to be the insulted one. And if I refuse? The guard's face hardened. Then Earth will be declared an enemy of the Villani Empire. Your planet will be banned from all galactic trade. Your people will be isolated forever. After the guards left, Yuna collapsed into a chair. Her tall body seemed to fold in on itself like a dying flower. "You cannot do this," she said. "You cannot fight him." Taiho sat across from her. "If I do not, Earth will suffer. Then let them suffer. Your life is more important than politics." Taiho reached out and took her hands. He had to lift his arms high to reach hers, but he did it without hesitation. "Yuna, listen to me. I did not come to these games just for myself. I came because humans are still seen as weak, as nothing. If I run away now, that will never change. Every human who tries to join the galactic community will face the same insults, the same cruelty." Tears were forming in Yuna's eyes. "But he will try to kill you. He has trained with the best weapons masters in the Empire. He has armor that can stop starship fire. How can you fight that with nothing but your hands?" Taiho smiled softly. "My hands have done enough in this lifetime." He stood and walked to the window. Outside, ships were gathering. Word had spread about the blood duel, and species from across the galaxy were coming to watch. This would be the most important fight in decades. "There is another reason I must do this," Taiho said quietly. Yuna looked at him. "What reason?" He turned to face her. His eyes were warm and serious. "Kale has spent his whole life hurting people weaker than him. He hurt you long before he ever touched me. He used you as a tool of shame. He made you feel like you were worthless." Yuna's breath caught in her throat. "You are not worthless, Yuna. You are kind and beautiful and strong. The fact that your own people cannot see that is their failure, not yours. And the man who treated you like garbage does not deserve to keep walking freely." He stepped closer to her. He had to look up to meet her eyes, but he did it without shame. "This is not just my fight. This is for every person Kale has ever stepped on. Every life he has ruined with his cruelty. He needs to learn that there are consequences, and I am going to teach him." Yuna stared at him. This small human, who barely reached her chest, was willing to face death for her honor. For the honor of all the people who had been treated as less than nothing. She did not know what to say. No words seemed big enough, so instead, she bent down and wrapped her arms around him. She held him close, her long body curling around his small one. She could feel his heartbeat against her chest, steady, calm, unafraid. "Promise me you will come back," she whispered. Taiho hugged her back. "I promise." The next day, messengers brought the official terms of the duel. It would take place in 3 days. Both fighters could use any weapons they chose. The arena would be sealed once the fight began. No one could enter or leave until one fighter was dead. Prince Kale sent a personal message as well. It was full of insults and threats. He called Taiho a coward. He called humans a disease. He promised to hang Taiho's body from the highest tower of the station as a warning to all who dared disrespect the Villani. Taiho read the message once, then deleted it. General Bora came to visit that evening. She did not come as a representative of the Empire. She came alone, wearing simple clothes instead of her military uniform. "You do not have to do this," she said. "There are ways to escape the station. I can arrange safe passage for you and the girl." Taiho shook his head. "If I run, Kale wins. And he will keep hurting people because he thinks he is untouchable. So you will teach him otherwise?" "Yes." General Bora studied him for a long moment. "I have watched the recordings of your old battles. I know what you are capable of. But Kale is not a fool. He knows too. He will come prepared." "Let him prepare," Taiho said. "It will not matter." General Bora nodded slowly. "I believe you. I do not know why, but I believe you." She turned to leave, then stopped at the door. "For what it is worth, I am sorry. Sorry for what my people have done to you. Sorry for what they have done to that girl. We are not all like Kale." "I know," Taiho said. That is why I am fighting him, not your empire." After she left, Yuna sat beside Taiho in silence. The stars outside their window seemed brighter than usual, as if the universe itself was watching. "Taiho," Yuna said softly, "if you win, what happens then?" "Then we leave," he said. "Together. We find a quiet planet somewhere far from empires and wars. We build a life. A peaceful life. And if you lose?" He reached out and touched her face. His hand was small and warm against her pale blue skin. "I will not lose," he said. "I have a promise to keep." Yuna closed her eyes and leaned into his touch. For the first time in her life, she allowed herself to hope. Hope for a future. Hope for happiness. Hope for love. 3 more days. 3 more days until everything changed. The Grand Arena was the largest structure on Station Omega. It could hold over 100,000 spectators, and every seat was filled. Ships surrounded the station in layers, their crews watching through massive screens. Across the galaxy, billions of beings were tuned into the broadcast. The blood duel had become the most watched event in recorded history. In the center of the arena, the fighting floor gleamed under bright lights. It was made of a special material that could absorb blood without staining. The Villani were practical about death. The royal viewing box was at the highest point, decorated with gold and jewels. The Villani Emperor sat on his throne, his face showing no emotion. General Bora stood behind him, her eyes fixed on the arena floor. Prince Kale's seat was empty. He was preparing for his moment of glory. Yuna had been given a seat in the front row. Her hands were clasped so tightly that her knuckles had turned white. Around her, aliens of every species talked excitedly about the coming battle. They spoke about Taiho like he was already dead. "The human is brave but foolish," said a Kovani merchant sitting nearby. "Prince Kale has the best armor in the galaxy. Even the silence cannot break it." "I heard the prince has been training with 7 different masters," said another. "He knows every fighting style." Yuna wanted to scream at them. She wanted to tell them that they were wrong. But her voice would not come. The gates on the east side of the arena opened. Prince Kale walked out, and the crowd erupted in cheers. He was dressed in ceremonial battle armor that shone like liquid silver. The armor was alive with energy, covered in shields and defensive systems that had cost more than most planets. In his hands he carried 2 plasma blades that burned with blue fire. He raised his weapons above his head, and the cheers grew louder. He was beautiful and powerful and terrible. He was everything the Villani admired. Then the gates on the west side opened. Taiho walked out. He wore simple gray clothes, the same clothes he always wore. No armor, no weapons. His feet were bare. The cheering stopped. For a moment, the arena was completely silent. Then someone laughed. And another. And another. Soon, half the audience was laughing at the small human, who had come to fight with nothing but his body. Taiho walked to the center of the arena. He stopped 10 feet away from Prince Kale and waited. The prince looked at him with disgust. "Is this a joke? Where is your weapon, human?" Taiho did not answer. "Very well." Kale smiled coldly. "I will make this quick. For the honor of the Villani Empire." The announcer's voice boomed through the arena. "Let the blood duel begin." Kale moved first. He was fast, much faster than anyone expected. His plasma blades cut through the air, leaving trails of blue fire. He swung at Taiho's head, his chest, his legs. Each strike was precise and deadly, but Taiho was not there. He moved like water flowing around a stone, like wind passing through leaves. Kale's blades found only empty air. Again and again, the prince attacked. Again and again, he hit nothing. The crowd grew quiet. This was not what they expected. Kale was sweating now. His perfect armor was starting to feel heavy. His breath was coming in short bursts. He had trained for this fight for 3 days straight. He knew every technique in the galaxy, but Taiho moved like nothing he had ever seen. "Stand still!" Kale screamed. He activated the boosters in his armor and launched himself at Taiho with incredible speed. His blades came in from both sides at once, a killing strike that no one could escape. Taiho stepped inside the attack. He was so close to Kale that their faces were inches apart. Before the prince could react, Taiho's hands moved. One palm strike to the left elbow, one to the right wrist. Two soft sounds, like tapping on wood. Kale's arms went numb. His plasma blades fell from his fingers and clattered on the floor. He stumbled backward, staring at his useless hands. "What? What did you do?" Taiho spoke for the first time. His voice was calm and quiet, but somehow everyone in the arena heard him. "I blocked your nerve pathways. Your arms will recover in a few hours. This fight is over. Surrender." But Kale did not surrender. His face twisted with rage. He activated his armor's emergency systems. Hidden weapons emerged from his shoulders: missile launchers, energy beams, poison darts. 100 different ways to kill. "I am Prince Kale of the Villani Empire. I did not surrender to a human." He fired everything at once. The arena lit up with explosions. Fire and energy filled the fighting floor. The crowd screamed. Yuna jumped to her feet, her heart stopping in her chest. When the smoke cleared, Taiho was still standing. His clothes were torn and burned. There were cuts on his arms and face. But he was alive. And he was no longer holding back. In the royal box, General Bora leaned forward. "Look at his eyes." The Emperor looked. Taiho's eyes had changed. They were no longer soft and warm. They were cold and empty, like the void between stars. This was the face of the silence. This was the face that had ended wars. Kale fired again. This time, Taiho moved. No one could follow what happened next. One moment, Taiho was standing in the center of the arena. The next moment, he was next to Kale. His hands moved in a blur, and pieces of armor flew off the prince's body. Shoulder plates, chest armor, helmet. Each piece was removed with surgical precision. In less than 10 seconds. Kale was standing in nothing but his underclothes. His weapons were destroyed. His armor was scattered across the floor. He was completely defenseless. He fell to his knees. "Please, please, I surrender. I surrender." Taiho stood over him. For a long moment, no one moved. The entire galaxy held its breath. Then Kale did something stupid. He pulled a hidden blade from his belt. A small knife coated with the deadliest poison in the galaxy. It was forbidden in blood duels. It was a weapon of cowards and assassins. He lunged at Taiho with a scream. Taiho caught the blade between 2 fingers. The metal snapped like a twig. Then he placed his palm against Kale's chest. One push. Kale flew across the arena. He crashed into the royal viewing box with such force that the entire structure shook. He landed at his father's feet, unconscious and broken. The silence that followed was absolute. 100,000 beings stared in disbelief. They had just watched a barefoot human defeat the most powerful prince in the Villani Empire, using nothing but his hands. Taiho turned and looked up at the Emperor. His voice was quiet, but it carried through the arena. "Your son used a forbidden weapon. By your own laws, his life is now mine to take." He paused. "But I'm not like him. I did not come here to kill. I came here to prove that humans are not weak, that we deserve respect." He bowed his head slightly. "The fight is over. Do what you will with your son. I am done." He turned and walked toward the gates. The crowd parted before him like waves before a ship. No one dared to speak. No one dared to move. In the front row, Yuna was crying. But they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of joy. Taeho had won, and he had done it without taking a single life. 3 days had passed since the blood duel. Station Omega had not stopped talking about it. The recordings had been watched billions of times across the galaxy. News channels played them over and over, analyzing every second of the fight. Experts argued about how Taeho had moved so fast. Military leaders studied his techniques. Children across 100 worlds started pretending to be the silence in their games. In the Vellani Palace, things were very different. Prince Kale had survived, but he was no longer a prince. The Emperor had stripped him of his title and his inheritance. Using a forbidden weapon in a blood duel was the greatest shame possible in Vellani culture. Kale would spend the rest of his life in exile on a distant moon, forgotten by history. The Emperor called for Taeho personally. Yuna was worried, but Taeho accepted the invitation without fear. The throne room was massive, filled with ancient art and glowing crystals. The Emperor sat on his throne, looking tired and old. General Bora stood at his side. Around them, the highest nobles of the empire watched with curious eyes. Taeho walked in wearing clean clothes that Yuna had helped him pick out. He looked small in the giant room, but he did not seem bothered by it. He stopped before the throne and bowed his head in respect. Taeho of Earth, the Emperor said, you have given our empire much to think about. My son insulted you, tried to kill you, and broke our most sacred laws. Yet you showed him mercy. Why? Taeho thought for a moment before answering. I have killed before, Your Majesty. Many times. I know what it feels like to take a life. It is a weight that never goes away. I did not want to add another weight to my soul. The Emperor nodded slowly. You are a strange human, the strongest I have ever seen. Yet you speak of peace and mercy. Strength without mercy is just cruelty, Taeho said. I have seen enough cruelty in my life. The nobles whispered to each other. This was not the kind of warrior they were used to. Their heroes were violent and proud. This human was calm and humble. The Emperor raised his hand, and the whispering stopped. Because of your actions, the Vellani Empire owes you a great debt. We would like to offer you a reward. Name anything you desire: wealth, land, a position in our military, ships, anything. Taeho did not hesitate. I want only one thing, he said. Yuna's freedom. The room went silent. General Bora raised an eyebrow. She was given to me as a prize, Taeho continued. I want that status removed. I want her to be free to choose her own path. She should not belong to anyone. The Emperor looked at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, a smile appeared on his old face. You could have asked for an empire. You asked for a girl's freedom. He shook his head in wonder. You truly are different from us. He waved his hand. Granted. From this moment on, Yuna is a free citizen of the galaxy. She may go where she wishes and do what she pleases. Taeho bowed again. Thank you. As he turned to leave, General Bora spoke up. Taeho, a moment please. He stopped and looked at her. I have studied warriors my entire life, she said. I have fought in 100 battles, but I have never seen anyone like you. You could have been a conqueror. You could have ruled planets. Instead, you chose to be kind. She saluted him, a Vellani gesture of the highest respect. It has been an honor to witness you. Taeho returned the salute. The honor is mine, General. Outside the palace, Yuna was waiting. The moment she saw Taeho, she ran toward him. She had to move carefully because of her height. One wrong step could send smaller beings flying. But she reached him quickly and scooped him up in her arms. You are alive. What happened? What did they want? Taeho laughed as his feet left the ground. They wanted to give me a reward. What did you ask for? Your freedom. Yuna froze. She stared at him with wide eyes. You asked for me? I asked for you to be free. You do not belong to me anymore. You do not belong to anyone. You can go wherever you want. Do whatever you want. Yuna slowly set him down. Her eyes were filling with tears, but she was smiling. And where will you go? She asked. I have a small ship waiting. I was thinking of finding a quiet planet somewhere. A place with mountains and rivers and no wars. A place to rest. That sounds nice. Taiho looked up at her. His heart was pounding, but his voice was steady. Would you like to come with me? The tears spilled down Yuna's cheeks. She laughed through them, a sound of pure joy. Yes, she said. Yes, I would like that very much. They left the station together that evening. The small ship was nothing fancy, just a basic transport with room for two. But it had everything they needed. A bed, a kitchen, a window to watch the stars dot as they flew away from Station Omega. They passed dozens of other ships. Many of them flashed their lights in respect. Word had spread about what Taiho had done. He had become a hero without trying. Where should we go? Yuna asked, sitting beside him in the cockpit. Taiho looked at the star map. Thousands of worlds waited out there, each one a new possibility. How about there? He pointed to a small green planet at the edge of known space. It is called Haven. The reports say it has gentle weather and beautiful forests. Very few people live there. Yuna nodded. Haven, I like that name. They set their course and jumped to light speed. The stars stretched into lines around them, and the universe opened up. For hours, they flew in comfortable silence. Sometimes, Yuna would ask about Earth, and Taiho would tell her stories. Sometimes Taiho would ask about Vellani customs, and Yuna would explain them. They laughed at the differences between their worlds. They found joy in the small things. As they got closer to Haven, Yuna reached out and took Taiho's hand. His hand was so small in hers. Her long fingers wrapped around it completely. But somehow, they fit perfectly. Taiho, she said softly. Yes? Thank you. For seeing me when no one else did. For treating me like I mattered. For everything, Taiho squeezed her hand. You do not need to thank me. You always mattered. You just needed someone to remind you. Yuna leaned down and pressed her forehead against his. It was a Vellani gesture of deep affection. She had never done it with anyone before. I love you, she whispered. Taiho smiled. I love you too. They landed on Haven as the sun was setting. The sky was painted in shades of orange and purple. The forests were green and endless. A gentle wind carried the smell of flowers. They stepped out of the ship together. Yuna had to duck to get through the door, but outside, the world was big enough for her. She stretched her long arms and breathed in the fresh air. It is beautiful, she said. Taiho stood beside her. The sunset made his face glow. He looked at peace for the first time in years. It is home, he said, and it was in the months that followed. They built a small house near a river. Yuna learned to cook earth food, and Taiho learned to appreciate Vellani music. They planted a garden together. They watched the stars every night. Sometimes, messages would come from the galaxy outside. The Galactic Unity games continued. New conflicts arose. Old empires fell. But none of it touched them. They had found their own world. One evening, as they sat by the river watching the water flow, Yuna asked him a question. Do you ever miss it? The fighting. The glory. Taiho thought for a long moment. No, he said finally. I spent so many years fighting. I was good at it. But being good at something does not mean it makes you happy. He looked at her. This makes me happy. You make me happy. Yuna smiled and leaned against him. She was so much taller that she had to bend almost in half. He was so much smaller that he almost disappeared against her. But together, they fit, And somewhere in the galaxy, on stations and ships and planets, people still told stories about the Silence. They called him the greatest warrior who ever lived. They wondered where he went and what he was doing. Taiho did not care about stories anymore. He had everything he needed right here. The sun set over Haven, and the stars came out one by one. In their little house by the river, a tall alien girl and a small human man sat together, watching the universe turn. They were home.